Is Sony about to become the next Sega? Nah, that's cap. I don't like that title. Sony's in trouble. Nah, that's still not it.
PS4 cycle would be the last giant one, and that each succeeding cycle would be smaller. And it's like movie theaters, they're not going away. But there will be fewer films made for theaters and fewer theaters for people to see them in.
All right, I was just trying to get you riled up, your blood boiling, so you stay a little bit longer. What I meant to say is that Sony needs to watch out for the future. I know you're wondering, who is this off-season Santa Claus and this college professor? Well, on the right is David Jaffe, original God of War director, and on the left is video game analyst Michael Pachter. This is probably the best video game interview I've seen, and I know that's not a feat because most video game interviews are whack, but there's so much insight that is gained from this video that I use in this interview, so I definitely suggest you check it out. I'm a realist, not a fanboy, so this is more of a call to action, so settle down.
That's nice, that's great.
Third person narratives. Sony is king bar none, but sadly, it's not sustainable. What's 10 million copies compared to a $20 skin that didn't take over 1,000 employees in 5 years to make? Sony is about to go through a big change, and it's similar to Ubisoft. Sony is about to enter what I like to call the free-to-play flops. Sony's going to focus on more multiplayer. They have about 10 live service games coming up, which means no more single player games. Just kidding. But many people, including myself, will be looking at the PlayStation 4 generation like how we look at life before the internet came along. Yo, what's good? You already know I'm KenWal, and the PlayStation 5 generation is not gonna be like the previous generation. That doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. It's just that if you thought Sony was gonna go more single player with this generation, then please prepare yourself for disappointment. This is just a prediction. I could be wrong, but I'm going to be following the money, which is why this is all going to make sense at the end. Casual gamers, y'all are killing us, man. I love y'all, but I gotta keep it a buck. I'm not shaming you for what you like. It's just a shame you like that. The amount of money those games make would make a blind person see again. Sony's a business, and there's just too much goddamn money they're missing out on. So I can't argue that brute forcing 10 live service games is a bad idea, especially when you're in jeopardy of losing Call of Duty. Sorry, you're not gonna lose it, but you're really gonna pay $70 every year for a Call of Duty game when you could pay $15 a month, get Call of Duty and a bunch of other games? What? Sony needs to watch out for Game Pass because this thing can bury them if they don't do what's necessary for the future.
Make him stay, Merv. Let me leave, Merv! No! No! No!
The reality is live service games are hurting single player games. Single player games can never make that kind of money unless they're monetized. We are going to see less and less single player games. That doesn't mean we're not gonna get them anymore. You got people like me and millions of others that will continue to play these games. In order to make a good single player game today, you're gonna need a lot of money. They don't release production costs publicly, so we don't know for sure, but Sony exclusives are about upwards of $150 million to make. The return is good, but companies want and need more. Hence why everybody's doing the live service games. If someone were to ask me if I think Sony's doing the right thing, I would say absolutely not. I can't stand these live service games. Most of the time they're ass. I try and give them a chance, but they're just so goddamn bad most of the time. They just let me down. They want my money constantly. That would be my answer emotionally. But I know y'all remember what I said in the beginning of the video. I'm a realist, so I hate to say it, this is absolutely the right move. I still want single player games, and these games can help fund those games. What makes me excited for these projects is that it's Sony, duh. They have arguably the best talent. Now that Bungie's gonna help them, I'm optimistic about these games. I have faith in their talent, unlike some people. I get it. Sony is trying to slow down this Activision Blizzard deal as long as they can, but damn, PR-wise, they look like clowns. What's revealing to me about this deal is that, one, console wars exist, and Sony knows how powerful Game Pass is. In about 10 years, Game Pass will be easily accessible on almost every device. This is why Sony needs to prepare for this thing. When this Activision deal goes through, Microsoft will have 32 studios as well as partnerships feeding into Game Pass. Imagine if McDonald's said fuck competition and decided to buy Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, and Starbucks. They make a subscription service for $15 that gives you access to all their restaurants. Console gaming has not grown in players, and it's probably not going to. The console base is between 250 to 270 million players. PC gamers, as we all know, are not moving, and mobile gamers are just their own species.
So, I self-identify as a loner.
What? Console gaming is probably not going to grow because of the barrier to entry. Microsoft is a software company. Nintendo and Sony are hardware companies, and because of that, it's going to be hard for them to grow their player base. I think it's a really good move that Sony is giving more of their games to PC, and I think they should actually make some of those live service games available across all platforms. I know, that sounds really crazy, especially coming from me, since I used to be a nut about console exclusives. Sony absolutely needs one of these games to be a hit, especially if they're gonna continue making these single player blockbusters and compete with the cadence of Game Pass. When Xbox can get their god-awful production together, we could possibly be looking at a AAA release every 3 months, as well as other games. There are more casuals than hardcore, and Xbox is doing a great job of catering to both fan bases. I love Sony because of their single player games, but those games aren't the most played. This is another thing Sony has got to figure out. Cloud technology will get there, and when that happens, Nintendo and Sony are gonna have to do a lot of rethinking. Actually, Nintendo can pivot easily. All they gotta do is make an app that has all their games, charge $15 a month, and boom. Sony, on the other hand, relies on people using its console because any game that comes to PlayStation, they profit off of it. But what happens when people stop buying consoles? People are already frustrated that they can't get a PlayStation 5. Xbox will not have to deal with this problem in the future. This problem will only get worse if they don't start thinking about this now. I know most of my fan base and most of the people that this video will reach to are hardcore gamers. And us, we don't like to hear it, but casuals run the game. There's just so much money that these businesses can scheme off of them that it doesn't matter. The whole industry is moving away from single player games. They're risky. That's why most of them are sequels, remakes, or licensed IPs. Xbox and Microsoft just have so much goddamn money to make this thing work that they can support so many types of gamers. And that's why I'm worried about PlayStation. PlayStation isn't gonna die. They're not going to be the next Sega, and they're not in trouble. I'm late to PlayStation party. I had a PlayStation 2, then got back on board at the end of the PlayStation 4 generation. I don't mind Jim Ryan, even though the dude can't grip a controller properly. I think he's making some of the right moves, but
I told Jim Ryan the last time I saw him, which is 2019, that Game Pass was going to eat his lunch and put him out of business. And I watched him take notes, and he thanked me for my opinion.
If Jim Ryan doesn't prepare the company for the future, which is accessibility, not the console, then he will be looked at as the downfall of PlayStation, or at least the beginning. When Xbox acquires Activision Blizzard, Game Pass will start looking like a regular scheduled TV program, like Cartoon Network back in the days. Gaming is changing, and I don't know if it's going to be for the better or for the worse. If you're like me and you love single player games, please, I cannot stress this enough, support them, because we're going to be looking back at these days blissfully. You already know I'm KenWal. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.